Hey YouTube, in this video I'm gonna do an in-depth review of the HPS Custom Guns Open Master in 9mm Major. For the YouTube Police algorithm, this is a fully original gun. For your information, I'm not sponsored. Any guns, gear that I'm gonna discuss, I paid for and on my own. I started looking for another open gun for, I would say, approximately a year. The common denominator in the online and personal conversations I had with competitive shooters was actually HPS custom guns from Bonn in Germany, which is relatively speaking close by, approximately 2.5 hours driving from where I live. I was not really familiar with HPS custom guns. HPS actually stands for Hans-Peter Schäfer, who is the owner but also the principal gunsmith that fits the guns together. I started looking online and on social media on what I could find on HPS custom guns. The footprint is rather limited. HPS actually has a website, also has a Facebook page, and I did find some Reddit threads, but overall limited information that I could find. So I contacted Hans-Peter directly via mail. We had several very lengthy email exchanges discussing different types of open guns that he had, the pros, the cons, and he actually guided me to the Open Master. What immediately struck me in my interactions with Hans-Peter is that he's completely no nonsense, very straightforward. He gives you clear and very elaborate responses to any and all questions you had. He actually challenges you also as far as, for example, as I stated, the selection of the type of gun depending on the level of shooter you are, your ambition, and so forth and so forth, which I appreciated a lot. He also took the time to answer all the questions, and mind you, I had a lot of questions for him, but he answered them, and he also discussed pros and cons of his guns compared to other guns, for example, my Bul Armory guns. Because I'm very passionate about ipsc and practical shooting, I train at least 4 times per week in my dry fire dojo downstairs, and twice per week I go to my local ipsc club to train in a live fire setting. I want to have guns that are available, that are reliable, that work. So I actually invested in 2 identical HPS custom guns open masters. This one that you see here is actually my competition match gun. I have an identical one, literally it's 100% identical, which I use as my training gun and which also serves as my backup gun in the event I would have an issue with this main match gun. Since YouTube forbids to name prices, I would refer you to the HPS Custom Guns website to find all information and prices on all of his guns. As stated in my introduction, after a year of looking for another gun to replace my Bul Armory guns, I put in the order with Hans-Peter at the end of 2023. And I actually picked up both guns at the 1st of May of 2024. Currently I have on both guns approximately 10,000 rounds that I shot through both of them together. I'm gonna give a couple of tips in this in-depth review video. The guns both actually came in a small plastic box, which I think was too small for the open guns, so the boxes were pretty useless afterwards. I used them to transport the guns back home, but since then they are on my shelf because they are too small to actually hold the guns and any other parts. If you want to see the guns in action during training or my matches, check out the videos on my YouTube channel. So what is actually so special about the HPS custom guns? Well, Hans-Peter actually buys oversized parts like the frame, the slides, the barrel and several other parts from quality producers, amongst others in the US, and he hand fits any and all parts of the gun himself, which can take up to 30 hours per especially open gun, so that you have very tight tolerances and high quality end product. Hans-Peter told me that one of the main differences between his custom guns and, for example, Bul Armory guns is the hardness of the steel components he uses. Now, I'm not an engineer, but he actually told me that all the main gun parts, like the frame, the slide, the barrel, have a hardness of 41 HRC. So for all the technical nerds, you probably know what that means, but that's a very high level, especially for guns. Everything is very tight, everything is very well fit together. The gun and all its parts are PVD coated. I actually chose for a full black version, but you can actually get them in any other color. I would say overall the quality of the PVD coating is very good. I do notice some slight marks here where the gun is resting on the double alpha flex holster, and also on the inside, especially where the slide meets the barrel and the locks, you can see some very slight marks which are fully normal and have removed a little of the PVD coating. As far as the weight is concerned, this gun, completely empty as you see it here, has a weight of 1,350 grams. If I insert a big stick from Atlas Gunworks empty, the gun actually goes to 1,439 grams. If I load the big stick to capacity, which is 28 rounds, and I put it into the gun actually totally weighs 1,792 grams, which, especially compared to my Bul Armory Bullesteros, is relatively speaking a low weight. So let's dive into the gun. I'm gonna actually work my way up from the magwell grip up to the frame, the slide, and then the red dot. Let's start with the magwell. This is a Boss Components brass magwell, which is also PVD coated. It has a very large funnel which autocorrects messier reloads. Hans-Peter actually beveled it so that the mags do not bind with the magwell or the grip, which I appreciate. This is not overly heavy, for example, compared to the Bul Armory tungsten magwell, which is very heavy. I think it weighs almost 500 grams by itself. This is certainly not that heavy, but it does add weight to the lower part of the gun, which improves overall balance of the open master. Let's move up to the grip. My first request was actually to get a fully steel grip made out of one part, also to make the gun actually a little heavier. But after having some very interesting discussions back and forth with Hans-Peter, he convinced me that it would be better, especially for my profile and usage, to pick a polymer grip, which is heavily stippled, as you can see, and ensures a very, very aggressive and very tight fit, which even ensures that I don't need any grip enhancer, for example, because the grip is very aggressive, and even shooting major, that gun does not move at all. I really love it. One of the The improvements I made to the Open Master is that I actually broke the sharp edges of the grip below here where I marked them, because these corners were very sharp, and since I have very large hands, so that it doesn't cut into my hands, both my strong hand as well as my weak hand. Let's talk about the trigger. This is a Gepard competition trigger with a medium flat trigger shoe. Why did I opt to get this trigger? First of all, I like the straight flat triggers, vice, for example, the curved ones. That's personal preference. But the trigger also has a very stiff trigger bow, which ensures a very consistent and direct contact with the inner workings of the gun, such as the sear and the disconnector. For both of my guns, I asked Hans-Peter to set the trigger weight at 2 pounds. Why 2 pounds? Because I think 2 pounds is very consistent, very reliable, and also very safe. Hans-Peter told me that inside the main spring housing there's a 15 pounds hammer spring, which I like a lot. I mean, there's no complaints whatsoever. The trigger is not too hard and certainly not too soft, so that's good. So as you can see, Hans-Peter actually blended the beaver tail with the grip safety very nicely into the grip. The grip safety is actually disabled, so it doesn't move. Since we are talking about the magwell and the grip, I briefly want to touch on the magazines I use. Hans-Peter actually recommended to invest in Atlas Gunworks magazines. He doesn't sell them by himself, actually had to acquire them from another vendor. They are very, very difficult to get in the EU. I was able to source them and buy multiple of them. In addition, Hans-Peter, being from Germany and considering German law, he's not allowed to sell big stick mags in Germany. So he did offer to provide small magazines, but since I don't use them, I only use and always use big stick mags to get a consistent grip. I do play around with the number of rounds inside the mags, but I always use a big stick mag for any and all stages I have, except when I shoot in Germany, because there again these types of magazines are not allowed. You need small magazines, so I actually bought a couple small Atlas Gunworks magazines, but only for use in competition in Germany. These magazines can hold up to 28 rounds, plus one in the chamber, which is 29, but I do have to confess that I only put 27 in them to have a more consistent feeding by the spring, and I never had any issues with these mags so far. One point of attention or one tip is that as you can see, this is actually not the original base plate for the magazine. This is a TTI small base plate, which is a little smaller. The original Atlas Gunworks big stick mag actually come with Atlas Gunworks base plates, which are a little larger and do fit the USPSA mag gauge, but I've tested the ipsc mag gauge and the overall length was too long, since there's a difference in mag size between USPSA and ipsc, and I had to source TTI base plates so that the total actually goes into an ipsc mass gauge. So pay attention if you buy Atlas Guns big stick mags, that you also have to get separately the TTI or any other producer smaller base plates, because otherwise the magazine does not fit the ipsc gauge. These mags work very well in the Open Master. I had no issues whatsoever to date. Let's talk about the frame. Inside the frame you'll find extreme engineering hammer, sear and disconnector, which also polished at the right spots so that there's a smooth action going on. The shielded thumb safety left and right are made by the Italian company BT. I do have to say that I'm not very fond of the angle nor of the sharpness of the underside of the safeties. Again, because I have large hands, they actually cut into my hand. So what I did is I beveled a little bit, also with a metal hand file. I actually beveled and broke the edges of the safety left and right so that they didn't bite as much as before. One of the things I'm considering is also to remove just a little bit of material on the left and the right side to make a little more room and to have a more natural position for my thumb. Let's talk about the red dot setup. Hans-Peter actually proposed to install a Boss Components red dot mount together with a Boss Components thumb rest, which he also hand fitted so that the thumb rest is actually a little closer to the red dot frame itself. This is also the original black color, which matches the PVD coating of the gun itself. As a red dot, I opted to switch actually from the 6 Sauer Romeo 3 XL to the Holosun 507 Comp. This is a red dot, not a green one, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a 6 MOA dot. But I always turn my dot very dim so that it doesn't draw my attention away from the target, being target focused as much as I can. This is my match gun. The dot mount actually works perfectly. I have one issue: the screw that holds in the thumb pad itself actually comes loose every 500 or so rounds, and then I have to take out these screws and then reattach the screw. Also, I've used different types of Loctite, but for unknown reason actually this comes loose a little bit. For the rest, not on this gun but my training gun, I noticed when I was cleaning it just the other day that there was a crack in the red dot mount just here and here. It doesn't impact the mount itself nor the dot, not the accuracy, but there's a very small crack inside the red dot mount itself. One of the things that I think Boss Components can improve on actually is similar to, I think it is the double alpha Seymour, the original Seymour red dot mount, where there was actually a hole left and right with a magnet in it, and you can actually put a very small rod in it to facilitate strong hand or weak hand pickups. So this is something that I think Boss Components could do to especially for the open gun shooters, for a faster pickup with the magnet rod. Because of the popple holes, which I will discuss later on, I do have to say that the gases ensure that the red dot dirties up more and faster compared to, for example, my red dots on my Bul Armory gun. So that's something that you have to bear in mind. Let's move on to the slide. The slide is bought oversized and then, as I stated earlier, hand fitted by Hans-Peter himself. This is actually a shortened slide. This is a 4.5 inch slide. There are proprietary cuts that are made into the slide to make it a little lighter. In the slide there's an FTAC, an original FTAC extractor in it. So far I did not have any issues with it. Also to get it in and out for cleaning is not a problem at all. Inside the slide there's a guide rod. It's not a toolless guide rod. When I discussed my preference to get a toolless guide rod for more efficient, faster field disassembly of the gun itself, Hans-Peter actually recommended, especially for open guns, to get a regular guide rod, so not a toolless one, because that's again maybe another point of failure, which I understand. So this one I have to pick out with a small piece of steel to block the guide rod and the spring, so that I can actually take everything apart. The guide rod is actually again hand fit to the barrel and the slide, so I cannot just pick up any other guide rod and install it here, but that's something that I'm going to consider in the future. Also hand fit a toolless guide rod and put that into the gun. On top of the slide we have a dovetail cut with a slide wrecker, which is also sourced by Hans-Peter. What I like a lot about this wrecker is that it's actually fairly high, and there's a lot of clearance for my thumb, which is different with my Bul Armory guns, for example, because the profile is much lower. And on a regular basis, if I don't really put my thumb onto the thumb safety, my thumb actually hits and causes a malfunction in the gun against the slide wrecker. This one is high enough and works very well. It would be nice to have the same slide wrecker, but then in the toolless version. The gun actually comes with a 9-pound recoil spring, but I did some tests with the 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 pounds recoil spring, and for me the return to zero, the recoil impulse and the overall feeling was best with the 10 pounds recoil spring. So in this gun I actually have a progressive 10 pounds recoil spring, which ensures for very flat shooting. The gun didn't come with a buffer, so I actually contacted Hans-Peter about his opinion on buffers, and he said that it's personal preference, so I actually added a buffer in the gun. The gun comes with a 5-inch bull barrel with a screwed on and blended compensator. This is all again hand fit by Hans-Peter. I opted to have a V6 popple holes on the side with 2 additional ones on top, which ensures very flat shooting. If you use the same ammo in different guns, you have to realize that because of these popple holes that your power factor will actually drop, but I'll go into that when I discuss the ammo. What are my experiences with the break-in and the zero of both of my open masters? It took approximately 30 rounds for the guns to be shot in, which I think is exceptional, because I've always heard that break-in and fully functioning race guns may take up to 1000 rounds, which is a lot, but these guns, both of my open masters, were actually shot in and ready for use after only 30 rounds, meaning that up to 30 rounds I did have some jams, especially slides locking up, because everything is so tight, and Hans-Peter actually provides special ceramic oil so that everything is really blend together well. I used that special oil for almost 1000 rounds, so that everything is really smooth inside. But after 30 rounds, also having to move the slide forward manually, the gun actually started to work 100%. I never had any issues whatsoever, and I would say even after 50 rounds I was so confident that I literally shot my first match with the gun having no more than 100 rounds on it. So both guns from The factory worked great. I had no issues whatsoever. As far as the zero is concerned, I zeroed the red dot at a distance of 25 meters with my major ammo. Actually ensured that I have approximately a golf-sized group with both of my guns. There's really no difference between my match and my training gun. I load my own 9mm major ammo. For that I use Armscore 9mm brass, Limit Z 124 grain full metal jacket bullet, Fiocchi primers, and as powder I use 3N37, 7.45 grains of it for a total length of 29.5 millimeters, and the normal crimp, which leads in my open masters to a power factor of approximately 164, which is approximately 4 less than the same round in my Bullesteros, in which I get for the same specs a power factor of 168. So as I discussed earlier, the popple holes actually not only dirty up the red dot more, but also cause a drop in power factor. So in conclusion, what are the pros and the cons? I'll start off with the pros. So one of the things that struck me from the start in my contact with Hans-Peter is he has a vast knowledge, experience with guns, to include open guns. He still competes actually with his own guns in different matches, so he speaks from experience. He's very professional, very knowledgeable. You can contact him, he responds rapidly, which I like a lot. Also, being in Bonn, it's only 2.5 hours away, so any issues I would have, I can actually contact him and go there easily without losing too much time. As I stated earlier, I had some issues with the slide of my Bul Armory Ultimate Racer. I had to wait 8 months for a new slide. So this is something that I hope to prevent with the HPS custom guns. This is a truly custom built open race gun, high quality, well fit, very tight tolerances, which makes it very, very accurate. The HPS custom gun can be personalized not only from the color that you desire, the type of grip, the type of trigger, the inners, the safeties, the barrel, popple holes, no popple holes. I mean, there are so many things that you can actually personalize, to include even the serial number, which makes this really a unique piece of art. Compared to my Bul Armory guns, for example, this gun is really light, which is also an advantage, especially for narrow or very wide transitions, and also to move around on stage with the gun. The gun has a very comfortable recoil and a very fast return to zero. It's very accurate. The grip, I really like the grip. It's very, very aggressive, and as you can see, I don't need to use a grip enhancer. It really bites into the skin. But the most important thing for me to date, and I can speak out of experience with my SPS and my Bul Armory guns, this gun has been extremely reliable. I never had any issues or jams or any complaints with the guns whatsoever. So they really do what they are built for, to compete. Some minor cons, as discussed, as far as the ergonomics, changing the angle and blending the sharp edges of the gun and the thumb safety is something that I've done. As discussed, having a modified red dot mount with a hole with a magnet in it, so you can actually add a small rod to it for faster weak hand or strong hand pickups. The toolless slide tracker is something that would be nice, as well as the toolless guide rod. As I stated, I fully understand the fact that it's a point of failure that you actually eliminate, but since I take the gun apart, I clean and lube them every time I shot them. It's just easier and faster. The popple holes do work and make sure that the gun is very flat, but they dirty up the red dot and they cause a drop in power factor when comparing the same ammo in different guns. Open guns in general need to be very well maintained. They need to be cleaned and looped because everything is so tightly fit. Buildup of carbon or oil of combinations thereof actually may lead to reliability issues. I, from the start, actually clean and loop all of my guns every time that I shoot them. I know I'm crazy, but that actually ensures that the guns are well maintained and are very reliable, which this gun is absolutely.